Hello and welcome to Destination Draft Day, your one-stop shop for all things NFL Draft, NFL talk, college football. We got it all, and we are more than excited to do it. We are in the heat of it when it comes to the football season. We got the national championship coming up here on Monday. We got the last week of regular season play with playoffs on the line. First and foremost, so before we dive into any of it, Nick Durst, my wonderful co-host, how are you doing?
Michael, I had a big weekend. This past Sunday, I got to see the greatest of all time in person, do what he does best. Went to the game, Bucks, Jets, had my my podcast tailgate beforehand. Jets are like a third-class organization. I mean, they're spreading COVID the best they can, making everybody put their phones and keys and wallet in the same bin as everybody else. So, horrible organization. But listen, Antonio Brown, just a few feet ahead of me. I was lucky enough to sit in the sixth row, despite having $58 tickets for the upper deck, but I got a seat upgrade. Zach, we didn't really touch on this too much on Monday's show, but again, I just want to recap. I was at the game, and we saw everything happen with Antonio Brown, but Tom Brady, incredible performance. And, it's going to be tough for them in the playoffs, everyone's saying. But, I think they're going to be favored in every game other than when they're going to Lambeau. So we'll see what happens with the Bucs here in the playoffs.
Yeah, they certainly have found ways to overcome some of their injuries before, but this is probably a new test in terms of just how depleted they are. The wide receiver unit, they've invested in it with picks like Tyler Johnson, Jalen Darden, bringing in guys like Scotty Miller, but with all the injuries right now, they are not looking like a promising team in terms of being able to accomplish what they can this season. With Godwin out, with Antonio Brown officially released, there's going to be question marks around this team. And I think we mentioned it last episode. Larry Fitzgerald seems like a guy that, maybe they'll possibly bring in with the.
That'd be a good. I'd like to see that. Is he? Do you think he's in game shape, Larry Fitzgerald?
I don't know. It really depends. But, there is a lot of options. There's a lot of free agents. Terrell Owens has even reached out and said he wants to participate. So
I think Larry Fitzgerald makes a lot of sense. I was surprised he didn't end up playing this year. I understand wanted to stay with the Cardinals, but he got a great chance from the Super Bowl here. I don't know. I guess it's maybe we'll see the reemergence of Scotty Miller, who has basically done nothing this whole season, but he's good in the playoffs. And we'll see what happens. And we're gonna have seeding's up in the air. We'll get our picks later, but I think the Bucs are ultimately going to get the 2 seed. But before we touch on the NFL, I want to ask you about Caleb Williams. How does he turn down this Eastern Michigan University offer, Michael, of $1 million to play there in NIL next season?
Yeah, I think the fact is he's getting way more than $1 million from almost every school. And the options are on the table. I think it's kind of confirmed with Dillon Gabriel transferring into Oklahoma that he's not returning. And that could have probably been inferred from the fact that he entered the portal at the beginning, but he said that he was kind of open to the idea. So now really there's going to be the option of where is he going to go? Is he going to follow Lincoln Riley to USC? Is he going to try to find the best contender and go to a team like Georgia where they may be like a QB away from being this contending team? And really there's ultimately a lot of options, and a lot of teams are going to be more than willing to bring in Caleb Williams. There's been rumors about North Carolina because he has, I don't know if it's officially a girlfriend, but a girl out there that he certainly likes. There's a theory, on all these transfer portal quarterbacks that have been kind of following their girlfriends.
I think Clemson should try to get him.
I think it's certainly a possibility. They're kind of in the weird situation of wanting to see what they can do with Cade Klubnik. So they don't want to bring in someone who's going to be there for this year, next year, and potentially have him transfer out. But at the same time, a talent like Caleb Williams is someone that you are almost willing to change your plans for. Maybe it doesn't happen for a team like Clemson, but for a team like Auburn, who just brought in Zach Calzada in the transfer portal, they're still very much in on Caleb Williams and willing to say, look, you're our starter if you want to come here, even though we just brought in this guy and maybe we believe in him. We know that we believe in you a little bit more.
Michael, how bad is Oklahoma going to be next year?
I don't know. I like what Venables is going to make this program into. I think they're going to kind of be prepared for the SEC more than they might have been with Lincoln Riley, even though I think Lincoln Riley is the better coach, just because I think Venables is very good at producing defensive talent. And I think that's a big thing that is necessary for the SEC. I think that's going to be huge for developing in the trenches to get used to the SEC strength. But ultimately, I think there is going to be a little bit of a rebuilding process. Right now, you have Dylan Gabriel coming in. You probably have Eric Gray returning, but there's still a lot that is leaving in this portal, whether it's Kennedy Brooks to the NFL, whether it's Theo Weiss, Mario Williams, Marvin Mims, all potentially leaving in the transfer portal. I mean, there's just guys that you can't really replace easily, even though Venables knows that he needs to replace him. He's probably had many plans and many discussions. It's going to be a hard task, and I think there's going to be a drop-off, especially in offensive production for this first year in the Venables era.
When do you think we'll hear on the official year that Texas and Oklahoma join the SEC?
I think we'll probably see it 2025, maybe. I don't know. It's tough to say.
Okay.
So
I thought they were going to
the big
speed it up
issue-
maybe 2023.
yeah, the big issue is Texas, I think, is ready. Like, they're willing to cover the fee, but Oklahoma doesn't have that money in terms of boosters willing to pay for them to kind of get their opt-out fee from the Big 12. So Texas and Oklahoma are coupled together in this move. So until both teams are ready to go, they can't really get it finished. And so we're going to see it probably delayed. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be all the way until 2025, but I do think that we're going to see next year for sure Oklahoma, Texas in the Big 12. I believe 2023 we'll see Texas, Oklahoma in the Big 12. After that, it's very much up in the air.
We shall see. It'll be interesting. All right. So we will obviously talk Monday about the college football championship. So we'll devote this to week 18. It's been a long season, Michael. Don't get too used to this 18 weeks, though, because 19 weeks is going to be here in the next year or two, and that's going to put the Super Bowl the day before President's Day, which everybody's kind of always wanted. But I think it's going to be very long for the season for the players. They'll get the extra bye, though. It's the main game, of course, is going to be Sunday night, and that's going to be the Chargers and the Raiders. Both of us probably want to pick the Chargers here, but every time I pick the Chargers in a big game, they lose. Every time I pick against the Raiders in a big game, they win. So I don't know. I don't know what to do here. I'm going to pick the Chargers to win. I think Herbert's going to play great. But remember, this team they should have won the division. Many times they could have won. They blew it against the Chiefs. But something's telling me that these Raiders are gonna win the game, Michael.
Yeah, the Raiders are an up and down team, and it's been the case all season. I think this is a team that is promising in the long run. They've been rumored to possibly have Jim Harbaugh, and I think that could be a guy that maybe pushes them over into that playoff picture next year. But right now, I mean, you kind of just look at this game and you look at the Raiders' schedule and you're saying, man, they probably had so many chances where they could have easily been in this playoff situation without this game. I mean, you look at losses to the Bears, to the Giants, to the Washington football team, and no offense to those teams, but the Raiders should have very easily won those games.
Of course.
They are too talented to be losing those. So it's such a tough situation where the Raiders come out and they have these games where they just perform extremely well, and then they have games where they just don't really hang in with teams that they very easily should. So I think I lean Chargers as well, for similar reasons that you said, but it wouldn't shock me at all if for some reason the Raiders come out and they're just absolutely on fire and, it's not even close to them. We just look like idiots, even though, the Raiders have just been the most up and down team all season.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Now let's assume, let's say the Chargers get into the playoffs, right? I guess you would rank Herbert as the third best quarterback in the AFC playoffs. So you got to go Mahomes and Allen 1-2. And then, maybe Herbert's top 5 overall. Obviously, Brady and Rodgers are going to be 1 and 2. Who would you trust more in the playoffs? Do you trust Herbert, or do you trust Matthew Stafford, who's looked absolutely terrible? Do you maybe say Kyler Murray gives his team the best chance? Do you say, I like Dak Prescott? I'm going to go Ryan Tannehill. They've been to an AFC championship before. How do you stack up these quarterbacks in terms of who could actually would most likely win you the game on their own?
Yeah, I think Mahomes, Brady, Rodgers, they're all probably top three pretty safely. After that, it really is up in the air because we haven't seen a lot of playoff experience for these guys. I mean, what's to stop us from saying, look, Joe Burrow just put a LSU
Absolutely.
team just on an absolute tear in the playoffs. And I know he had, some all-pro NFL receivers, but he still has a very good receiving core, and maybe it's just a clutch gene for him. Tannehill is a guy that has kind of had an up and down playoff career, but I mean, with Derrick Henry back, this could very easily open up this Titans offense, especially if Julio is able to get fully healthy as well. You look around and Herbert's got the talent. Dak's a very good QB. Kyler's got the talent, obviously. Stafford, this is kind of what everything's been building towards. But it's very much up in the air. I think right now, if you told me I have to pick a QB for this playoff run, I'd probably go with Stafford just because I think that with McVay and everything that they've been building for, it's for this playoff run. And I know that he's injured and he has his issues, but I think when the playoffs kind of get here, we'll see a little bit more of a improved approach from this passing offense. And I think we're kind of seeing some similar stuff where the Rams are just trying things out, knowing that they'll probably be there. They just want to be prepared for when the NFL really gets into the grind of it, which is the playoffs.
I would be shocked if Stafford puts his team on his back. I think he's in decline here. But I like your AFC point. If I said, hey, Michael, I think Joe Burrow is going to lead the Bengals to the Super Bowl, you wouldn't flinch. I could say the same thing about Herbert, say the same thing about Josh Allen, and you'd be like, all right, makes sense. I think the AFC is definitely wide open. It's going to be interesting to see how everything plays out there once everything's set. I'll talk NFC in a second, but first I want to talk Steelers and Ravens because technically they are still involved in the playoff hunt. But I mean, the Ravens just got such bad luck this year. They also, went for two times it caught them. And then Mike Tomlin is just a great coach. The guy has never had a losing record as head coach. These two teams battling out. They probably thought they'd be battling this week to see who's going to win the division. But this could be. It seems like it's going to be Roethlisberger's last game. But where do you see these two franchises heading moving forward?
I think the Steelers are going to be one of the biggest pursuers of a top QB, whether it's a veteran guy that kind of can just get the job done, or whether it's someone like a Rodgers or a Russell Wilson or a Deshaun Watson. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are positioned extremely well in terms of being able to contend, and they have the money to go and spend $30+ million on a quarterback and still have some money left over to really kind of spend in free agency to go and get their pieces overall and contend. Right now, though, this is one of the best defenses in the NFL, and you don't want to miss your window of opportunity by going and drafting someone who's going to need 2-3 years to kind of get there and be ready. And by that time, your defense is out the window. They're either aged or just gone because they're too expensive, or the money is all gone. You can't really build on the rest of this team. I understand there's holes on this roster. The offensive line still needs patched up. The defense could still use some cornerback help. But I believe that if the Steelers are all in, they need to really go out and get one of these QBs. Get an Aaron Rodgers. Get a Russell Wilson. Go and even maybe just a Jimmy Garoppolo and build up on this offensive line. Build up on this defense because you have the pieces in place to contend, and it is a quick fix to really turn around from a team that's fringe playoff, most likely hanging on the outs, to automatically one of the top contenders in the AFC and in the NFL as a whole.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that works out with both of those teams, really, because the AFC North is going to be good. And you got a question. I mean, the Browns are going to pick up Mayfield's fifth-year option, but after next year, what's the future for the Browns at quarterback?
Yeah, I was one of the biggest proponents of this is going to be an extension for Baker Mayfield in Cleveland, but there's been a lot of smoke there of both sides kind of not being happy. Mayfield feeling like he's being held back a little bit. The Browns maybe feeling like he's not really meeting their expectations. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some sort of deal, and maybe this is the team that kind of makes it work for Deshaun Watson where they're willing to send back what could be perceived as a franchise quarterback in return. Baker Mayfield to Houston, Deshaun Watson to Cleveland, and then whatever extra pieces Cleveland will have to pay. But ultimately, this is going to be a very interesting situation to watch. Probably one of the annoying talking points of next year where we're just like, all right, enough of Baker Mayfield, but it's just going to continue and continue because there will be a new rumor every week. But ultimately, I mean, I don't blame it for either side. If Baker Mayfield truly feels like he's not getting the support needed or the play calling isn't good enough for him to succeed, then I understand why he's saying, look, I need something to improve in that regard. And then if the Browns feel like, hey, we're a contending team, but we're being kind of held back in a few positions and one of them is quarterback, then you don't sit on your hands. We've seen it from teams where they're willing to kind of get off of a QB that they feel like is very good and instead chase a franchise caliber quarterback. And for the Browns, if they believe that, I know there's a long history of struggles at the position, but it's worth it if you think it's going to be the difference from being a playoff team compared to a Super Bowl champion.
Absolutely. All right, to the NFC, 3 teams left alive here. First, we'll talk about the Saints and the Falcons game. I think the Saints are going to win this, although the Falcons have been better than expected this season. But I think the Saints will win this game, Michael, which would then put some pressure on the Niners. But do you think the Saints are going to pull this one off?
It's a tough one. I feel like the Falcons usually end the season pretty well. And I also have to give them credit for overachieving this season. I really thought they were going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. And they had their moments where they looked very bad, but they were able to kind of win some games that really they were viewed as toss-ups. They beat the Saints. They beat the Jets. They upset the Dolphins. They beat the Giants, Panthers, Lions. They beat games where they were going against bad teams. And obviously, you're supposed to kind of have those games and then some additional ones to add on top to where maybe the Falcons did still have some troubling concerns for next season. But right now, they're right in the middle of the NFC. And I think that in this Saints game, especially one where the Saints are just riddled with injuries, I think there's plenty of possibility that the Falcons win this one. But assuming the Saints win it, that puts tremendous pressure on the Eagles, especially if the Cowboys aren't benching their starters, because this is going to be a huge game, and I think it's one that is going to be extremely enticing to watch. You have to wonder, is Dallas going to go all out to keep their rival out from playoffs, or are they going to kind of focus on resting their starters and trying to put their emphasis on playoffs and getting healthy?
Yeah, and maybe I'm mistaken. I think the Eagles already made the playoffs. I think the 49ers have to win to make the playoffs. So I think the 49ers have to beat the Rams to make the playoffs if the Saints win.
Oh, yeah, the Eagles did make it. Sorry, I didn't realize that. So, yeah, 49ers have to beat the Rams. That's another interesting game where, we've seen the Rams have their struggles all year with these injuries. And I know there's a difference in home field advantage for the division, but there's still a big question mark in terms of, is it worth it to play a home game or have Stafford get a little bit of rest with all the injuries that he's been dealing with all season?
So, I mean, this is a huge game for the Rams, Michael, because if they lose this one, well, I personally think the Cardinals are definitely going to win this weekend. I don't know what the tiebreaker is, though. I think the Cardinals, they beat the Seahawks and the Rams lose. The Cardinals win the division. We'd have to check on that, but if the Rams lose, then they're going to the wild card spot, so they're going to be going to Dallas, I think, next week, which would be interesting. I think if it comes down to it, if the 49ers have to win to get in, which I think they do, I think they're going to be able to pull it off. They'll win. I've seen Kyle Shanahan come up so small in these situations though before, so I'm not really confident saying that. But I do think the 49ers are going to win ultimately. The Saints are going to miss out. And I think the way I have the playoff seedings, I think it's going to go Packers, we already know, clinched the 1. Bucks 2 seed. I think the Cardinals get the 3 because they beat the Cowboys. So they'd have the tiebreaker there. 4 seed would be the Cowboys. 5 would be the Rams. And then I guess it would be, I think even though the Eagles already clinched, they're in the 7th seed if the 49ers get in. So I think it would be 49ers and the Eagles. That's how I would see the playoffs playing out at this point.
Yeah, and, just a real quick heads up to our fans. when these playoffs comes out, we will have a bracket. Very first episode, Monday, letting you know our predictions for the playoff season. And, we're very excited for it. Maybe it'll be Friday. Not sure 100%, but going to be some interesting games. Going to be a extremely fun postseason. So be sure be here on LandryFootball.com and watching the streams here on Destination Draft Day because we have some great content coming for you. But back to your point, yeah, this is going to be an extremely interesting NFC playout because, the Saints, they have a very good roster, but the issue is probably the most important position, QB, is just dreadful in terms of Jameis Winston went down early in the season, and from that moment, they kind of had it with Trevor Siemian, and then he got hurt, and now it's just one of those situations where there's no clarity on what the Saints will be week in, week out, especially when it's Taysom Hill starting or Ian Book the week before, and it's just, I don't know. It's such a tough team to try to predict week in, week out because of just how abysmal the QB play has been.
I would assume they're going to be the market for QB this offseason, but maybe they just run it back with Jameis. But with a guy like Jameis, you have to get a really good quality backup because I think he'll be a starting quarterback in the league, but you're better off using him in that wildcat package. It just makes your team so much better. Jaguars and Colts. Jaguars looking to lock up the first overall pick back-to-back years, Michael. And the Lions are taking on the Packers. I think we're going to see Aaron Rodgers in the first series at least, and we're going to see some Jordan Love. Where do you see these two teams going at the top of the draft? Are they going back-to-back defensive ends, 1 and 2?
Yeah, I think we'll see Jaguars go Kayvon Thibodeau just because I like the scheme fit for that more. I think he's a little bit more versatile, and it allows for this Josh Allen and Kayvon Thibodeau duo to kind of really play off of each other pretty well. But I wouldn't be surprised if Aiden Hutchinson continues to build up that momentum and potentially tops him as the number one option. But both guys going 1 and 2, I think for sure, unless someone is all in on a quarterback and trades up. But right now, it doesn't seem like any of the QBs are getting that type of consideration. And thus, we're looking at what should be a very valued edge talent top 2 picks for this class.
Yeah, and if that's the case, right there, then the Texans are going to have their choice of, really whatever they want in the draft. And then the Jets, of course. So the Texans, they got to figure out what they're doing with Deshaun Watson before we could even make an assessment as to where they are in the draft. I would assume they're going to pick an offensive lineman, but really too hard to tell. The Jets, they have a lot of needs, so maybe they don't go for offensive line, but we didn't play at all this year. And it's been a major challenge. And then after they go to the Giants, Giants could definitely use help all over on the offensive and defensive lines. So it's really going to be interesting how the top of the draft plays out. But I think the only thing we know for certain is the 2 defensive ends are going to go too.
Yeah, absolutely. And, all 3 of those teams, Jets, Texans, Giants, they're teams that have big, just value that could be easily traded. Jets and Giants have 2 top picks in the class. Texans have Deshaun Watson. So their plan for this draft is very fluid. They could very easily kind of trade back, maybe get more capital. They could easily try to package their picks for maybe a bigger piece in the NFL that's more proven. There's plenty of options on the table, and we'll probably go through all of them. Also, again, future shout out for the show, but Destination Draft Day, we're going to have the offseason blueprints again for each team. So very excited to get that started up soon, and definitely stick around for those episodes if you're watching because we're going to have some very exciting team-by-team breakdowns.
Absolutely. As far as the rest of the games go this weekend, not much. There's really nothing, at play. Bengals, Joe Burrow's not playing, so I do think the Browns are going to win this one, which hurts the Bengals as far as the seedings are concerned. So ultimately, the Chiefs are going to win. They're not going to lose to the Broncos. I'd be shocked. So we're probably going to see Titans 1, Chiefs 2, Bills 3, Bengals 4. wild card wise, I think the Patriots are 5, right? And then the Colts 6, and then 7 would be the winner of the Chargers-Raiders game. Again, we said it earlier. Any team, I think, can win in the AFC. Somebody gets hot, they're going to make the run. There's nobody that's going to be the favorite this year, but we'll see what our picks are next week. As of last week, I know you were still sticking with the Chiefs, Michael, but then they lost, so maybe that changed their mind a bit.
It's tough. I think right now, just with everything that is going on with the AFC, the only team that I trust is just kind of based on past seasons, and it has to be the Chiefs. But the Titans, everything they've kind of overcome this year, Vrabel should be coach of the year just for how well they've kind of overcome their offensive just injuries and everyone except Tannehill pretty much missing time. I assume they'll be 12-5. They get Derrick Henry back. You hope Julio Jones is really kind of 100%. Maybe the Titans have this year. They really fixed up their defense and done well in that regard. They have one of the better front sevens. So still plenty of potential for other teams. I'm not 100% sold on the Chiefs.
What I will say about the Chiefs is if they are playing the Chargers in the first round, they could have some trouble there. As long as the Chargers actually execute their game plan properly, they match up very, very well. And we saw it earlier in this season that they did lose to the Chargers.
Absolutely. And, that's one of the offenses that has the firepower to match up with the Chiefs offense that really hasn't been as dominant this season. So plenty of opportunity there for other teams in the AFC to take advantage and possibly get into the Super Bowl.
Yeah. What do you think about the Patriots-Dolphins, the usual end of the season matchup here? I think the Dolphins are going to win this one just because that's what history tells us.
Yeah, I think we could very easily see the Dolphins win that. And, it might be a little bit a situation where maybe that is good if it is the Bengals as the 3 seed. I think they're probably a team Patriots would more want to play than Buffalo. But I don't know. It's such a balanced conference right now that I feel like either team is going to be similar odds. So I think Patriots probably lose that one just because late season in Miami, they just always seem to get upset. But yeah, I'm not sure what the play out of it will be because so many games kind of hanging in the balance, especially if Cincinnati loses and Buffalo wins.
Yeah, I think, the Buffalo Bills, they're playing the Jets. So as long as they win, they're going to be the champs for the division. The Jets played well against the Bucs last week, of course. Really weird call at the end of the game, but I think Josh Allen is just going to run all over the Jets. They haven't been able to stop a running quarterback all season. Josh Allen, even when he has a bad game, which he did, 3 interceptions Sunday, he also has a great game. 90 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Very, very tough to stop.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a ground and pound game for Buffalo just to kind of win the game, control it, but also get out of there pretty easily. So I think they're going to try to avoid maybe running Josh Allen as much, even though it's probably the better game plan. But ultimately, I think this is a team where Buffalo's just too talented to lose it. So I expect Buffalo to kind of run away with it and probably lock up that 3 seed.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I gave you my prediction earlier, but what are you thinking for this Cardinals-Seahawks game? And could this be Russell Wilson's last game as a Seahawk?
I think I'm leaning Seahawks in this one. I really like what they did against Detroit. Rashad Penny is looking like one of the best backs in the NFL as of late, and I think that momentum is going to carry. I'm not sure what it means for the future of Russell Wilson. I think the safe bet is just Seattle decides to run it back one more year because they know that they're talented enough on offense to where if they can kind of get everything situated, get a full healthy year out of Russell Wilson, then they could very easily be in that playoff picture. But I don't know. It kind of depends on if Russell Wilson really wants out, like some of the rumors seem to indicate, or if he is okay kind of running back, getting a new coach or a new kind of philosophy in the offense. And I think that's what it ultimately comes down to. And it's just hard to fathom a team giving up a QB that's so good when he's not like aging as poorly as some may think for older QBs. It's not like this guy's on the brink of 40. I think he's like 33 years old, so he still has plenty of time to dominate. And I think it would be hard to see Seattle giving up on him unless they were just kind of forced by Russell Wilson to do it.
Absolutely. It'll be interesting to see. Again, we've been talking Rodgers all season. I think if they win the Super Bowl, I think he's going to retire, Michael. I think he wants that second ring, and beyond that, I think he's fulfilled.
It'd be interesting. He's someone that has talked about playing later into his career, talk about, thinking that he's healthy enough to continue going. But at the same time, maybe it's one of those things where if he gets a ring, then he is satisfied and he says, okay, I don't want to start up a new career elsewhere. I'm happy and I'm good. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the playoff. I think Green Bay has as good a shot as anyone to win the Super Bowl, so there's plenty of opportunity there. But ultimately, I'm still in the boat, I guess, of he continues playing, whether it's with Green Bay or with another organization. But I think that's one thing that I'm mostly leaning towards is that I don't think Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers are done after this year. I think they'll find a way to work it out just because he's been such a superstar for them.
All right. And with the Washington football team, they are going to name a team name on Groundhog's Day. So everyone's saying maybe it'll be the Groundhogs. But what's your guess for a team name? I'm going to go with the Washington Admirals.
Yeah, so let me pull it up real quick. But they talked about permanent list of some finalists, and I don't think Groundhogs were on there. And it could have been a fake out, but one of the names on there really stuck out to me, and it was Washington Armada. It just felt like a team name that hadn't been rumored at all, whereas the rest had been. So I'm gonna lean Washington Armada being the name that they go with. There's been talk about Brigade, Commanders, Defenders, Presidents, Red Hogs, Red Wolves, and then sticking with football team. I don't think they'd do this huge announcement just to keep it as football team. Brigade, Commanders, Defenders, Presidents, it's all been things that have been heavily talked about. And then Armada kind of came out of nowhere. So I'm going with Washington Armada as my prediction because I just feel like it's one of those multiple choice questions where it's everything else was just things that were used as tricks and it's just kind of obvious, whereas Armada came out of nowhere enough to where I'm I think this is what they decided and it's just kind of being pushed in sneakily.
All right. We shall see there. The question is, though, who's going to be playing quarterback for them next year? Are they going to run it back with Heineke? Is Ryan Fitzpatrick going to come back? What are they going to do? They're not going to be in a spot where they can really, make an impact in the draft. But, again, it's not the greatest draft, so no one's really looking for a quarterback at the top.
Probably the best fit of every single quarterback prospect with the team, the one that I like most is Sam Howell with the Washington football team. I think it is an absolute tremendous fit. I think he is the most pro-ready passer right now out of everyone in the draft. I think there's still work to be done. I don't think he's this perfect prospect. He may not even be my QB1, but I think in terms of pro-ready pocket passing, mobility passing ability, Sam Howell outranks everyone. So I think that Washington is going to find a way to bring him in. I just think the fit is so seamless. I think he offers so much. I think Fitzpatrick remains the starting QB for next year, or Heineke, whichever they want to go with. But I think Howell is brought in and eventually takes over the job, and they move forward with the idea, look, we were a team that was in playoffs with QB play that we were not happy with. Now we get a QB that we believe can be our future, and we'll see what can happen. And I think with Antonio Gibson, with weapons like Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, and De'Ami Brown, who they drafted, who was also, one of Sam Howell's favorite connections in North Carolina. I think it makes a lot of sense, and I think whether it's in the mid-first round or they trade up, I think that's one pick that will probably stay constant throughout my entire draft process, assuming that, Howell doesn't have some crazy rise after the Senior Bowl or something.
Yeah, and last thing before we wrap, former Washington football team great Dwayne Haskins. Is there any shot this guy's starting for the Steelers next year?
If they roll with Mason Rudolph, then I will say Haskins will start a game next year.
Okay.
But if they roll with Mason Rudolph, then fire everyone from the Steelers organization that made that decision, because I mean, we've seen Mason Rudolph get so many starts, and the guy is below average. He's not good. He's going to anchor your organization down. You want to talk to me about how he's a good backup? That's fine. Whatever. I don't care. But you cannot roll into a season with Mason Rudolph as your starting quarterback and think you're going to do anything other than be a 6-10 team tops. 6-11, I guess.
There's a lot of bad backup quarterbacks around the league. I don't think Mason Rudolph's one of them. The Giants better get a backup quarterback, because if they're going to come back with Daniel Jones, he's going to get hurt. You can't have Mike Lennon has been atrocious. Jake Fromm's starting. I don't even know who they had to sign somebody off the streets to be his backup this week. I don't know who that's going to be, but I think the Giants have one of the biggest QB disasters in the league, but we'll see what happens, because by next week we're going to know if Joe Judge is back. If Joe Judge is back, Daniel Jones is going to be back, and we'll see. Big show next week. Black Monday. We'll know about all the firings. We're going to know what the postseason bracket's going to look like, and we'll have the college football playoffs. So looking forward to our show Monday, Michael.
Absolutely. It's going to be very thrilling, action-packed. So we're expecting everyone to be here. You know, make sure you tell your friends. This is the one spot you want to be to hear all the analysis and thoughts on everything, you know. And then we got Senior Bowl coming up. We got playoffs coming up. There's going to be a lot of action here for Destination Draft Day. So it is some must-watch streaming entertainment if you are into football at all.
Absolutely.
Well, that's all we have for you here on today's episode. We want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thanks to LandryFootball.com for the platform. We'll see you guys on Monday. Take care.